Welcome back, dear readers. We have another fun video here at the Ridgefield Park Public Library in the spooky area known as my office. It's really... Anyway, so... on to today's video. My last video I mentioned a bunch of books that helped kickstart horror in the 70s. I mentioned the Paperbacks from Hell series about random books that we have at the library that no other library has. That thing that makes us a little bit more unique in Bergen County. And now I'm going to be telling you about one of my favorite things to do on Halloween, which is watch a whole bunch of movies with a bunch of friends and either laugh, scream, both, and just enjoy the wonderful celluloid screams that these movies have in store for us. And I wanted to share with you a bunch of different movies that we have here at the library. Not every single horror movie that we do have, because, we would be here for days if I had to go through every single horror movie, and then all the bad horror movies that we would have. So I just took a random collection of movies that we have here, some which you guys may have heard of, some which you may not have heard of, but just things that are indicative of what we have here in the collection. Maybe you might find some recommendations here for your Halloween viewing. So first one is Revenge. This was a very low budget indie film that came out, I want to say last year or the year before, and it's a very, just from the title, you might think you know what you're getting yourself into when you get into this movie. A young woman is left for dead in the desert, and she is on a quest for revenge against the people who did it to her. It is a very suspenseful movie. You think it's going to go one way, but...
Women always have to...
Interesting for you. I thought it was a very well done thriller. I think it was very fun. The acting's really good. And if you're looking for something like that, there you go. Same vein, as far as a recent movie came out, this movie, The Hunt, came out actually this year, right around the time it's basically a movie about how a certain class of people hunt lower classes of people for sport. Hey, it's the Dangerous Game, or Battle Royale, or any number of other themes that you've probably heard of in literature and what have you. But what makes this movie kind of interesting is that, I don't know if any of you guys had heard about it, but there was controversy before.
Who's ready to play? Are we the hunter?
What is all of this?
Or are we the prey?
Oh, I can't use that.
Just point and shoot.
Everybody get down!
I know what this is. It's Manorgate. Every year these...
I know some of you guys have probably heard of this recent classic movie. It came out in, I want to say 2014, called The Babadook. Babadook, if you've never seen it, that is one of my favorite horror movies to come out in the past 10 years. I love that movie. What some people don't know is that the director of that movie, Jennifer Kent, came up with a new one. And not a lot of people talk about this, but this is a really, really good film. That is The Nightingale. The Nightingale's not a horror movie per se, but it is a thriller. It's a historical thriller about this young woman who is seeking revenge. You're probably going to notice a theme with some of these movies. But Revenge, this one is really well acted. It's really suspenseful. You don't know where it's going to go. The other thing about this movie, beyond the fact that it's about a young woman looking for revenge, it takes place in Australia during a time when Australia was still a penal colony for the English. So there's some really interesting dramatic themes in this about indigenous people and about the way colonizers treat indigenous people, as well as people who are seen as sort of lower in stature. The main character, I believe she is Irish, and anybody who knows English history know that the Irish were never looked upon fondly by British colonizers, especially in the 19th century. So, yeah, this is a really unique film. If you like The Babadook, definitely watch this. If you've never seen The Babadook, you should still watch this. If you like history, suspense, things like that, this is definitely worth your time. All right. Now, this one's definitely older, but I decided to highlight it for you because I know that there's a certain staff member who I don't know if they want me to name them, who really likes these films, and I really like this director. It's Darren Aronofsky's Requiem for a Dream and Pi, both in one box set. These movies are freaky. Like, they are really interesting, but they are really freaky. Aronofsky kind of made a career for himself making these movies that are very cerebral and very dark. Pi was his first foray into filmmaking, and he has the stylings of a very young David Lynch, or David Cronenberg for that matter. Requiem for a Dream, there are scenes in this movie that are burned into my memory that I will never be able to forget. If you have heard of these movies and have always wanted to see them, now's your chance. You can watch both of them for the price of, well, there are no prices, but you could watch both of them and have yourself a good weekend. A depressing weekend, but a good one. Speaking of depressing and good, let's move on to one of our favorite authors that we all know, Stephen King. And as you could probably guess, we do have a lot of adaptations of his works here in the library. Many of you have seen it. You've seen The Green Mile, you've seen Shawshank Redemption, but this one I wanted to show you guys because there's a good chance you've seen it, but probably not in this version, and that is Misery. We actually have Misery on Blu-ray, and this Blu-ray collector's edition that was put out by Scream Factory, I really love because it has all sorts of extras in here. It has interviews with Kathy Bates. It has interviews with William Goldman, who directed it. William Goldman wrote it. Rob Reiner directed it. So Goldman, you might know as the writer for The Princess Bride, among other movies. But yeah, this was a really excellent movie. It was actually the movie that got me interested in Stephen King, and in particular Stephen King adaptations. Like I said, we have a bunch of Stephen King adaptations. I'm just going to show you like a few that people might have missed, but we have everything from this to The Shining to the recent It movies. So, and if you're looking for them, be sure to ask me. The next thing too, we have a horror series, Castle Rock. This was produced by Stephen King and J.J. Abrams. It's based on a lot of ideas from Stephen King books. We have the first and second season available on DVD, so I definitely recommend starting with the first season. A lot of it takes place in Castle Rock, Maine, because, hey, Stephen King writes about Maine as much as Lee Child writes about Jack Reacher. So if you are a Stephen King fan but haven't checked this out, definitely give this a shot. And if you're looking for a TV show, this one's a really good one for Halloween. And last, hey, I mentioned a lot of Stephen King adaptations, but one of my little pride and joys here in our collection is we have, so far, one of the only films Stephen King not only adapted, but directed himself, and that is Maximum Overdrive. I cannot vouch for the quality of this movie. In fact, this movie at times is really bad, but the thing which I love about it is just how absolutely ridiculous it is. It's about a bunch of people who are holed up in a gas station because the trucks have gone insane and they are rebelling against their drivers. I mean, that's a fear I have constantly. But this one is the digitally restored Blu-ray, which only came out last year. It has a ton of extras, including, I think, like some music videos by AC/DC, because if there's one thing I really like about this movie, it's the fact that the soundtrack was done by AC/DC. This is wonderful 80s garbage. If you've not seen Maximum Overdrive, but you have a Blu-ray player, and if you want to give this a shot, this is really worth your time. All right. Also, moving on to like other movies that have come out recently that some of you may have heard of and some of you might have not. The first movie in this is a movie I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did, and that is the Nicolas Cage film Mandy. Mandy is a wild ride of a movie. Nicolas Cage at one point fights a coked up demon with a chainsaw. Do I really need to say more? I mean, the whole movie's shot like a heavy metal album. Like, it's a really nuts movie. I don't want to give too much of away because it is also not a long movie, so if I tell you too much about it, there's a good chance that it'll spoil the surprise. But it is gonzo with a capital gonzo. I really enjoyed it because, again, like some of the other movies, I had no idea where it was going. And sometimes watching movies like that is really interesting to me because you get to really see how filmmakers are able to make these, like, weird visions with almost nothing. Like, I think this movie cost about as much as a flashlight, and they were able to come up with some of the most unique things I have seen in cinema in years. And speaking of unique things, hey, are you sick of zombies? Yeah, me too. But I got a zombie film that you might really enjoy because this is definitely, it's a horror film, but it definitely falls more into the side of drama, and that is a Zombie Child. The thing which I find really interesting about this movie is because a lot of people, when they think zombies, they think of like the George Romero, Night of the Living Dead, armies of zombie apocalypse type creatures coming to get you, but people sometimes forget that zombies have a cultural history with especially Haitian and voodoo folklore, and this movie brings that zombie mythos back to those cultural roots. I thought this was really, really neat because of all the cultural implications in it. It is directed by, I believe, a Haitian filmmaker, and a good portion of it takes place in France. But the movie is in, I think, is it in English? Oh, it's in French, Creole, and English. But yeah, it's a really, really unique movie. So if you're looking for something different, definitely give this one a shot. I am really proud of this one because it is so unique. That is Nobuhiko Obayashi's House. Or as it's said in Japanese in all the trailers, House. This movie is bananas. Like, it's a technicolor, like, panoply of bizarre nonsense. I mean, if you watch this movie and if it scares you, you might be watching too hard. This is this I liken closer to like an episode of Scooby-Doo than I do to like an actual horror movie. But I love it. It's about it's from the 70s, and it's about this young woman and her friends who go over to her. I think it's her aunt. Yeah, it's her aunt. Her house in the country, and it turns out her house is haunted. There are floating heads. There's like pianos that eat people. There's a painting of a cat that might be alive. Like, I saw this movie years ago and I'm still trying to make sense of it, but it is so fun. Watch this with a bunch of friends and you guys will really enjoy it. Moving on to a little bit creepier stuff. Some of you guys may not know the name Hideo Nakata, but Nakata is best known for creating a movie called The Ring, which was then later adapted into an American horror movie of the same name. So we do own The Ring and its sequels here in the library, but the one which I wanted to bring up was one of his lesser-known films, which is also really good, and that is Dark Water. This was also turned into an American film, and American films kind of like, But yeah, if you're looking for a really interesting J-horror movie, basically one that's not like, oh my god, what's that behind you, but something that's like meditative and kind of slow and makes it and kind of fills it with dread and bringing up questions and such. Dark Water is really good for that. It's a single mom moves into a new apartment, but it turns out the apartment has areas of it that are just odd, and part of you would never think that someone would be able to get so much terror out of a growing puddle of water. Oh, and then we have like a bunch of other J horrors, but I want to bring this one to people's attention. We have a lot of these on both DVD and Blu-ray, so if you want to watch them in different formats, you certainly can. Then next door to Japan, we are going off to Korea. This is a film that I had actually never heard of. It was a good friend of mine who had gifted this movie to me. Then I watched it, I liked it, so I decided to add a copy into the library so other people might be able to watch it. And that is Phone. Phone is it's a horror movie, but it also skews more on the side of like a thriller. It is creepy. I will say this. So if you're easily frightened of real world situations, a woman is, I think she's like a reporter, and after she writes this one a news article, she starts getting these mysterious phone calls, and she has no idea where they're coming from, and then the phone calls get more and more intense, and then people start dying. It's a really, really creepy movie. Another country that's near and dear to my heart when it comes to horror movies is Italy. Italy has a massive backlog of horror movies that date all the way back to the new wave of movies. We're talking like the 50s at the very least. And there's a lot of directors out there. Dario Argento and Lucio Fulci definitely come to mind. We have their movies here in the library too. If you've never seen Suspiria, you should definitely give Suspiria a shot. That's one of my favorite horror movies, and we have 2 copies here as well as the remake. But the one I wanted to talk to you guys about is the one where a lot of Italian horror, giallo as it's called, began, and that's Mario Bava and his film Blood and Black Lace. We have it both on DVD and Blu-ray, so if you need to take a look at either of these, and if you don't have a Blu-ray player, you definitely have the chance to watch on DVD. This one's about a group of Italian models who are being stalked and one by one killed by a mysterious assailant in a trench coat and black hat and a mask that covers their entire face. Bava's movies are definitely massive, like colorful affairs. They're very creative in the way that people are killed, and they fall more in the lines of like crime mysteries than they do like what we would consider horror. But be forewarned though, like a lot of these Italian horror movies are also the precursor of what we know as slashers. So there are a lot of like mass killers in these movies, often with like these really stylish gloves, who stab at people from the dark. So they are suspenseful movies, they are horror movies, and they are violent movies, but they are fascinating movies to behold. And speaking of fascinating movies to behold, I want to recommend this little movie that came out a couple of years back, 2016 I think, Love Witch. Love Witch is really fun. I wouldn't call it like a full-on horror movie. This is more in the realm of like fantasy or so. But the thing which I really like about this movie is that it is shot, despite the fact that it was made in 2016, it's shot like a 1960s Italian film. And the actress in this film who plays the titular witch, she is a joy to behold in this movie. If you're looking for something completely different that's not 100% scary, but definitely, like I said, different and not something that you're 100% used to, The Love Witch is definitely worth a watch. If nothing else, just for the way it's shot. It's beautiful. All right, where is that? Some of you guys may have heard of a camp classic from the 80s called Reanimator, directed by Stuart Gordon, based off of a short story by H.P. Lovecraft, somebody who many people would consider the granddaddy of modern-day horror. Well, what some people don't know is that Gordon, after the success of Reanimator, made another H.P. Lovecraft adaptation, and that's the one which I want to show you guys. We do, by the way, have Reanimator in the library, both on DVD and Blu-ray. If you've never seen that movie before, definitely give it a shot. But this one is From Beyond. From Beyond is a really, really bizarre 1980s camp movie. Like, there are such weird acting choices, writing choices. The special effects are wild. Like, this is during a time when people would put these really inventive special effects into horror movies. I'm not saying they don't do that now, but like, this is during a time where it's like you could get a lot of mileage out of a guy in a rubber suit. And From Beyond is a really fun movie. Like, there's the acting primarily by Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton are like top tier campy horror movie levels. It's a campy movie, but it is also gory. So if you don't like gore, stay away from it. But everybody else, have fun. And also, in terms of fun campy classics, let's go to Sleepaway Camp. Sleepaway Camp is this trilogy of very 80s slasher films. We have Sleepaway Camps 1, 2, and 3, and they are they each get worse and worse with every subsequent film, and we do have them in DVD and Blu-ray. If you are a fan of 80s horror movies, in particular about seeing teenagers you can't possibly stand get killed because of like stupid decisions that no one would ever make in real life, Sleepaway Camp is definitely your go-to. I mean, and last, this is I saved the best for last, and by best I mean the best of the worst. I was really happy when this movie came out on DVD and Blu-ray. We have both DVD and Blu-ray here. This is one of the cheesiest movies ever made. There's a good chance none of you have seen this beyond the times you stop in the library and I've given it to you, and that is Tammy and the T-Rex. This movie came out in the early 90s. It looks like it was made in the early 80s, and it stars a very young Denise Richards and Paul Walker. Paul Walker from the Fast and the Furious series, rest his soul. This was like one of their first movies that they ever made in their very young careers, and it is about a teenage girl, played by Denise Richards, whose boyfriend, played by Paul Walker, is killed, and his brain is put into an animatronic Tyrannosaurus. This movie was shot as a horror movie. Not even as a horror movie, but like the people who were making this film knew that the idea was absurd. They knew that this movie was absolutely insane. And when they were making the film, once they were done with it, the producers were like, nah, you know what? Make it a teen comedy. So they took this really, really ludicrous premise and released it as a PG-13 comedy for teenage audiences. They had to cut out a lot of scenes just to get that rating, and for the longest time, you could not get a copy of Tammy and the T-Rex uncut. It would forever be one of those films where it's like, hey, did you know that this stupid teen movie from the early 90s has a gore cut? And no one would believe that. I didn't believe that. And then the good folks at Vinegar Syndrome, I think that's Vinegar Syndrome, they put out Tammy and the T-Rex in its complete uncut gory glory. So our copies, we have it on DVD, but we also have it on, this is the Blu-ray, but we also have it on DVD, and it has both the PG-13 cut and the uncut version that was completely lost to the ages. So your town library has an uncut copy of one of the most hard to find movies in existence. The movie's insane. Watch it just to laugh at it, because you will have a good time watching this movie. Unless if you're like a stickler for gore, and I can't blame you. But they are really weird movies. So yeah, that is our pile just for today. We have a lot more movies where these came from. If you have any questions about them, please feel free to call us, email us. You could email me directly. You could email the library. Again, rfpkcirc@bccls.org. I'm going to put links down below in the information of this video. And in the meantime, happy watching, viewing, and happy Halloween. See you at the library.